Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you are new here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this bunny enrichment feeder. You only need a couple of things to make this enrichment feeder, and most of them you probably have lying around. The first thing that you're going to need to make this enrichment feeder is just a plastic bottle. These people normally just chuck them away, so now you have a second purpose for them. And you're going to want one that is thin up to the top so that it sits correctly on the grid, and one that has a cap on it, so then we can make a hole here, and that so all the food just doesn't come pouring out of the end. You're going to want one that is quite thin plastic if you don't have big tools in order to cut thicker plastic, but most of them are quite thin plastic, so you should be okay. And you're also going to make sure that it's completely dry inside and clean so that your bunny food doesn't get contaminated. And if it's things like pellets, if the bottle is still wet, it can make them absorb the water and make them go bad. So that is the first thing that you're going to need. The next thing that you're going to need is three, and I can't remember what these are called. I think they're called like CNC grids, I'm pretty sure that's right. But they're used to make cages, and right here is Missy's cage. It's a little bit messy at the minute, but I have loads of these spare, so I have like 50 of them left over, so this is really good if you just have a couple of these lying around. This is a really good thing to use them for. And you're going to want to zip tie them together, to there and then to there, so that it makes sort of this shape. You might have seen that I use this same setup for when I do jumps with Missy. It's exactly the same thing. You just want to make sure that it can fold out like this. And you're also going to need some connectors. You're going to need either 2 or 4. You don't have to put them on either end, but if you want to be really stable, you can. But basically, you just clip them on at the corners, and this keeps it nice and stable for when it's up. And then when you need to take it down, you can simply just take the connectors off, and then you can just collapse it down. And yeah, so this is the setup that I use for it because it claps down nice and small. So this is what I use for her jumps as well. And the next thing that you're going to need is some kind of rod. This is to put through the bottle, either end of the bottle. This is to hold it in place and also make sure that it can rotate to spill all the treats out. This is just a metal stick that came with an outdoor cage. So this is like one of the pegs that you put into the ground to connect the cages together. And I just use this. I also use this for when she's doing jumps. But it's just a metal rod. You can also use like bamboo sticks. You can just use sticks that you find in your garden. That it's really endless on what you can use for this. You can use like dowels, like a really big dowel, stuff like that. So yeah, this is what I use. So the next thing that you're going to need is some way of cutting the holes in the bottle. You can either use scissors here, but they might be a little bit difficult. You might need to make sure they have a pointed end. However, if you don't have scissors with a pointed end, you can also use a little pin. So yeah. The other way that you can cut the bottle is with some sort of scalpel or Stanley knife. This is just the scalpel version of a Stanley knife, if that makes sense. You can also use a kitchen knife, a drill, or anything that really gets hot, so then you can burn a hole through it. We can heat up a needle. It's really endless, but make sure that you are really careful when using sharp things. And if you are a child, then please make sure that you have your parents do this bit, because you want to be really careful using sharp objects. So this is everything that you'll need. I'm obviously not going to put the scalpel or scissors on the floor because Missy is right there, but imagine that they're here. And you can also use, like I say, drill bits, or you can use a hot glue gun because the end gets quite hot and you can burn holes through it. That would be a much nicer look. So the first part of this is to cut holes in the bottle. So you're going to want to cut holes or strips all along the sides of the bottle. Depending on how smart your rabbit is, or maybe their age and how capable they are, you're going to make sure that you make many holes if they're not as capable, and less holes if you want them to work a bit harder for it. With Missy over here, I will do anything to make sure that she works hard for her food, so I'm only going to cut a couple holes. And you're also going to make sure that you cut a hole on the cap, so then it can slide through the metal rod here. And you're also going to make sure that you do a hole here, so then it can also slide through either end of the bottle. I'm going to be back once I've done this. Okay, so I am back. I've just cut the bottle, so you can see there's a hole in the cap here. Sorry, it's a bit out of focus. Hi, Missy. And there's also a hole at the bottom. And I have personally, just because it was easier with the tools that I was using to cut the bottle, to just make 2 long strips. So you can kind of see it there. There's a strip that's just cut open here, and a strip that's cut open here. So when she rolls it, the food will just fall out. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like when you put the rod through. This is what it should look like when you have it through the rod that you're using. So it should be able to just spin round just like that, and then your bunny can use their claws to spin it around. And like I said, I've made 2 long strips either side that I've just cut out. Because I was using the scalpel, this was easiest for me, and it's probably going to be easiest for you if you're not using something like a drill or a soldering iron. But if you're using one of those, then it might be easiest to just make holes. But yeah, so I'm now going to attach it to our grids here, and then I'll be back. I'm just going to place this little bed down. This is just to make sure that Missy isn't standing on the bars, because that can be a little bit uncomfortable. If you have a towel or something that you can put down for your bunny just to make it a little bit more comfortable for them, then I think that would be a really good idea. So I'm now going to put a couple of her pellets in there, probably her dinner actually, because it is her dinner time, and I'm going to show you guys how it all works. That's quite Missy likes to run away with the lid off her pellet jar because she knows she can get in it that way. Okay, so this is what it should look like when you have the pellets in the bottle. So now I'm going to slide it through the rod and put it through the grids.